if you're interested, you'll come up with reasons and stories and excuses why you can't achieve these things. You'll allow your present ideas and identity control your behaviors, and that'll get you to keep doing what you're doing. He said, but if you're committed, you will upgrade your identity to match this new destiny. You'll upgrade your beliefs, your habits, your perspectives, and yes, you'll upgrade your skills and what you do every day.
Welcome to the I Own It podcast with Ben Reinberg.
We are live from Laguna Beach, California at the Ben Reinberg I Own It studios today, and really excited about today's guest. I've been following him for a while. Incredibly talented. And I find that everyone out there in the ether is going to enjoy this episode of our show. John Assaraf, thank you so much for joining us today, and really grateful for you to see you. And thanks again for joining us.
Thanks, Ben, for having me. It's my pleasure and a joy.
So your Innercise philosophy focuses on enabling people to achieve more. To kick things off, could you share a bit about your background and some of your biggest achievements?
Sure. Background. Born, I'll go way back and go quickly. Born in Tel Aviv, Israel, moved to Montreal when I was 5. Went to school, didn't do well, didn't think I was smart enough or good enough because I failed English and math in grade 7, left high school after grade 11 and got right into the workforce. Working at a computer company in the shipping department, making $1.65 an hour, and didn't like that. So on the side, I sold drugs in addition to doing drugs when I was a kid, and got into an enormous amount of trouble with the law. And fortunately for me, I had a brother who loved me, and a sister loved me too. And my brother introduced me to a gentleman when I was 19 who decided to help me not go to jail, so to speak. And he was asking me at lunch one day, why was I doing the things I was doing? And I said, well, I just want to make some money and, take care of myself and move out of my parents' house. And he said, what are some of your goals? And I said, well, I'd like to move out of my parents' house. I'd like to buy a car, and I'd like to get a better job where I'm making more than $1.65 an hour, opening and closing boxes in the shipping department of Philips Electronics. And he said, what are some of your bigger goals and dreams? And I said, well, I really don't have any. And what happened next was about to change my life, and I didn't even know it then. It was April 1980, just to put it into perspective. And this guy gives me these documents, and he said, why don't you answer these questions, and then let's talk. And so I looked at these documents, and the first question at the top said, at what age do you want to retire? And I'm like, excuse me, Mr. Brown, what am I supposed to put here? I'm 19 years old. My father is still working. There's nobody we know that's retired. And he said, just come up with a number. I said, okay, 45. Second question, upon retirement, how much net worth do you want to have? And I said, excuse me, Mr. Brown, what does net worth mean? And so he says, well, this is the amount of money you'll have after you take all of your expenses or debt, and that's what's left over. It's called your net worth. I said, well, what am I supposed to put there? He said, just pick a number. So I said, okay. I wrote $3 million. And long story short, I answered about 10 questions. I want retired 45, $3 million net worth, travel the world, Italian clothes, Mercedes-Benz, 4-bedroom house, take care of my parents. And he looks at these documents and he says, this is actually a pretty good vision for your life. He said, I'm going to ask you one question, and the answer to this one question will determine whether you achieve every one of these things. And I was 19, I was cocky and ignorant, and I was thinking in the back of my mind, like, yeah, sure, I'll have all these things based on one question. And Ben, I remember this like it was yesterday. He leans in and he goes, are you interested in achieving all of these things, or are you committed to achieving them? I was like, what? Am I interested? Am I committed? I thought it was like a trick question. So I asked him, what's the difference? And he said to me, if you're interested, you'll come up with reasons and stories and excuses why you can't achieve these things. You'll allow your present ideas and identity control your behaviors, and that'll get you to keep doing what you're doing. He said, but if you're committed, you will upgrade your identity to match this new destiny. You'll upgrade your beliefs, your habits, your perspectives, and yes, you'll upgrade your skills and what you do every day. So he leans in again. He says, so now that you know the difference, are you interested or are you committed? And I don't know why. I just yelled out, I'm committed. And he reached out his hand. He said, great, then I will be your mentor. And I said, thank you. What's a mentor? And that's where my beginning to understand the power of the mind is, because over the next 20 years, I built my own real estate company after I worked for him that had 85 offices and 1,200 salespeople. We were doing $4.5 billion a year in sales. I built another company with 5 of my friends that we raised $28 million for and took public on NASDAQ that was worth $2.5 billion. And I got into really understanding behavioral neurosciences over the last 40 years to understand what in the world happened to me and how was I able to achieve those things. So that's kind of like the short story from that beginning to today.
You know, it's so interesting. I talk about that with my staff at my company, Alliance. I am in commercial real estate. I've been doing it for about 3 decades as strictly as an owner. We're not brokers. And what's interesting is we talk about commitment. Commitment is such an important, most people, John, don't understand what the word commitment means. It's what do you want to achieve in life and how bad do you want it? I always ask my employees and my colleagues and people that look for my mentorship, I say to them, how bad do you want it? Because if you want it bad enough, you'll do certain things. Like last night, I was on the phone at 2 a.m. with an overseas call, and I'm sending emails, and my staff is saying, "Do you ever sleep?" I say, "I do," but I'll tell you, that's my commitment, because that has a domino effect, that phone call, on what's going to happen today in the office. And so commitment is something that's so great. And I hope our audience out there hears your words, because it's absolutely the truth. When in your life did you become keen on self-improvement, and what drives you, John, to realize your full potential?
So at 19 was really when it began, and then I started to see results, and then I loved the effect of achieving my goals, and so I've been on a pursuit of self-development literally for 43 years, and so for me, there's part of it is fear driven. So the fear of ever going back to limitations and obstacles, and not enough is enough of a spark to keep me pointed in the right direction. But then the realization that time is finite, and that is my greatest gift, and wanting to make sure that when I die, I refuse to think that I could have done more, I should have done more. I refuse. I have this visual in my head that, and I'm not religious by any stretch of the imagination, but I have this visual that I've had for probably 30 years or so, that if I was to meet, my maker, upon my death, and my maker asked me, like, what did you do with the life that I gave you? I don't want to feel like I should have, I would have, and I don't want to feel embarrassed, okay, that I had this precious gift that I squandered. I can't allow that on my watch. And so that drives me to be the best version of me possible, to overcome any of my fears, to overcome any of my limited thinking, to overcome anything that may be in my way, knowing fully, and this runs in the background of my head. Let me show you something. I just used this as an example earlier. Let's say that this represents the health that you want, the wealth that you want, the career you want, the relationship you want, the spiritual connected you want. It's complex. To solve this Rubik's Cube is very complex. But let's say you really want this. The first question is this doable? And obviously the answer is yes, this is doable. So then I'm going to go back to what you said before. How badly do you want to learn to do this? Because in every single situation, we know how to achieve every freaking goal that anybody that's listening or watching right now wants to achieve. So your problem is not that you don't know how to achieve it, because that's available. And now with AI, it's even more readily available. Right? So that means that something other than knowledge and skill is holding you back.
The cost of regret, I say, is a lot more than fear. And if people understand that if you don't take a shot, you don't take the risk, and you regret when you look back is going to be more costly and more painful. It's so well said, John. I appreciate that. one thing that I admire about you is that you're a man who was in real estate for quite some time. What attracted you to the field? And explain to everyone. So, because people always are interested, a lot of people think real estate is extremely sexy and it's an incredible career to venture upon. Talk about some of your earlier struggles that as you built the Remax business.
Yeah, I mean, before I built the Remax business, I was an agent. But the reason I got into real estate is, number one, Mr. Alan Brown, who became my mentor, that was his vocation. And he said, if you'll move to Toronto from Montreal, take the real estate course and pass, I'll give you a job. And I didn't know that he meant on commission only. I was ignorant. But I moved to Toronto. He started mentoring me, and he gave me the blueprint of what I needed to do first. And I can remember to this moment, I could recite the first script he had me learn to cold call. And it was really, really something that I had to, record on a cassette tape and listen to it 100 times over, like a Hollywood actor or somebody on a New York play would learn their script. I had to learn my script. And so I followed the script, and I would call 100 people a day initially. I started June 20th, 1980, and I get on the phone, and I just had a script that initially I didn't memorize, but I practiced it. And the script was, "Hi, this is John Assaraf with Alan Brown Real Estate. We have somebody who's looking to buy a home in the neighborhood. Have you thought about making a move?" If they said yes, I'd say, "Great. Could I come over today with my broker at 3:00, or would 5:00 be better?" If they said yes, I'd say this. If they said no, I'd say that. So I was trained on understanding scripting, but that was also the beginning of me innercising, right? Me training my neuro-muscles with skills and knowledge. So I started to achieve some success. And then after 6 months, he taught me a new script. So I had to learn a new script for sale by owners. I became really good at for sale by owners because I had a script. And so for me, the challenging times, the biggest challenge that I had was, because of my experience in school, I didn't think I was smart enough. I equated school with success. I didn't do well in school, wouldn't do well in life.
You know what's interesting about what you said is you picked up the phone.
Yeah.
And it's really a lost art. I say this numerous times, is everyone has different styles of communicating, but especially in real estate, whether it's residential or commercial, there is no doubt you have to be able to pick up the phone and talk to people and build that connection, that rapport, and you have to listen and find the truth in what someone else is saying on their side. I know we're gravitating to Microsoft Teams and Zoom calls these days, but there's really a lost art in this environment of picking up the phone. And I appreciate that, because you and I are probably similar generations. And it's really a lost art when you look at things and you say, you know what, pick up the phone. I always say, look, if someone sends you an email and you're struggling to communicate, pick up the phone. They will be shocked to hear what you have to say.
There's another piece of that too, though.
Okay.
And that's a lot of people think that you need to get busy doing something. You need to know what to do in the right order at the right time. So if you're going to pick up the phone and you don't know what to say, stop for a moment and ask yourself, what should I say? And then, in every business and every day, we're all selling something, and there's going to be objections. If you don't know the answers to those objections, then you've got to do what a professional athlete does before she or he plays. They practice. So, even Steph Curry, basketball practices layups. Even LeBron James practices layups. That's what they do at the beginning of every game. So pros practice the basics first. And so what are the basics for what it is that you want to do? And there aren't 100 different variations. So if you're going to practice, make sure that it's perfect practice so that you reinforce a proper pattern. Because once you reinforce a proper pattern, nobody can ever take that away from you. It's like riding a bike. So, the thing that I find most people are not willing to do is practice.
It's so
practicing during game time. That's not the time to practice.
Exactly. The game is after you practice enough, that's when you can perform. And it's so well said. So, you founded an IPO to real estate virtual tour company, bamboo.com, which I think is a really cool venture you did. And I believe it was during the height of the 90s tech bubble. Can you share the story of the company and how you launched it?
Sure. So I was retired at the time from running my RE/MAX region, and one of my friend's sons had invented this technology for a game. And the technology allowed you to look left, look right, look up, and look down, but the game didn't do very well. And so Len called me up. He says, "Hey, John, can you come take a look at this? I think we might be able to do something in the real estate industry with it." So I flew to San Francisco. I was living in LA at the time. And I flew to San Francisco, and I saw this game with this virtual tour technology. And Len said to me, "Do you think we could take this into the real estate industry," which you're familiar with because you have got some, background there? "And do you think we could create, these virtual tours instead of still photographs?" I said, "Are you kidding me?" And back at the time, it was 1996, 1997 timeframe. There wasn't a technology that you didn't have to create a plugin for. You had to download these plugins, and at the time, viruses were really coming on the scene, and people would put viruses in these plugins. And this particular technology, we were able to get it to such a point where there was no plugin needed. Just use your mouse to go left or right. And we got the technology to work where we can go into a house, do a virtual tour of the house, and then show it online in seconds. And so we raised, there was myself and 5 other people. We raised $28 million in Silicon Valley and launched the company called bamboo.com. And within 6 months, we had deals with Realtor.com, Century 21, RE/MAX, Better Homes and Gardens. All of the major companies used us as their dominant virtual reality or virtual tour company. And we grew from 6 of us to 1,200 in just over a year. I mean, hyper growth. We called it I-time. And we had a very successful IPO. We were worth about $450 million within the first several months. We merged with another company called IPIX. And then we were the big behemoth in the industry for many, many years until IPIX went under.
Are you still actively involved in real estate?
Only my own personal investments, but not actively involved in anything to do with real estate other than my own investments.
So what asset classes do you invest in? Any commercial real estate?
I haven't invested in commercial real estate since probably the early 2000s. I've invested in residential real estate and primarily mortgages. One of my clients was buying foreclosures from banks, and I was funding the first mortgages. So that's one of the things. But I've got investments in, I think, 48 different companies now as well, which is really something that I like to do.
So I want to share with our audience, you found an approach to self-improvement that you coined Innercise that you touched on briefly. Share more about your philosophy with everyone and how have your teachings matured over time, John?
So back in the early 80s, Mr. Alan Brown, remember he had me answer those questions?
Yes, sir.
And I created a vision for my life.
Mm-hmm.
He had me transfer that over to another document. And then every day I would look at that document of what my goals were. I would create affirmations that I would put on cassette tapes that I would record myself in the affirmative, having achieved all of those goals with the beliefs that I needed, with the perspective that I needed, with the habits that I needed. And every day I would listen to those cassette tapes while I was driving, while I was working out, while I was doing other stuff. And I would program or condition my mind through auditory means and some visual means to be able to create and reinforce the neural patterns, of those beliefs or goals. Now, what is Innercise? If you think about exercise for just a moment, why do you, I see you work out, right? I see your biceps, you work out, like you use weights of some kind or other means, whether it's pull-ups or weights. So you're doing different exercises to strengthen your muscles. Well, what about your neuromuscles? What about your belief neuromuscles? What about your habit neuromuscle? What about your self-image neuromuscle? What about those muscles of self-confidence and certainty? What about those? Because we weren't born with any beliefs. We weren't born with any fears. We weren't born with a self-image. We weren't born with self-confidence. We were born with character traits, but we weren't born with any of those other things, which means that somehow those patterns were activated and reinforced in our brain from the time we were born. So I started to think about my brain, as having neuromuscles. Some were strong, some were weak, some were empowering, some were disempowering, some were positive, some were negative. And the question became, can I deliberately deactivate the patterns that are weak and create and reinforce new patterns that are strong? And the answer is not only is it possible, we do it every day. So I coined the term Innercise, which is the inner work to do that. And so from 1980 till today, every day I Innercise. I wrote a book about it. I have a new app coming out with 500 Innercises. And what that is perfect language patterns that you can train your subconscious mind to have, perfect emotional patterns, perfect visual cortex patterns that are all integrated to help you achieve your goals and dreams. So today, I mentioned this to you earlier, I have like my Exceptional Life blueprint on my desk. And every morning I take a look at my family and the stuff that I love to reinforce what I'm really grateful for and what I do every day. I have things that I've achieved, places I've gone. I have things that I'm working on that I integrate in here. So I have visuals of everything that I want to achieve in my life or that I've achieved. I reinforce my life's purpose and my big why by reading it and listening to it every day. I have my highest values that I live by, my guiding principles for living an exceptional life. I have every goal for health, wealth, relationships, career, and business with the beliefs needed to achieve those. And every day, I reinforce it visually, emotionally, spiritually, and auditorily by activating and reinforcing the electrical and chemical activities that these things that I want to achieve represent.
That's fantastic.
And then I have all of this also recorded so that I can listen to it while I'm on the bike or walking or doing something else. And that's just based on the science of neuroplasticity that says that the neurons that fire together will wire together.
That's right. Yeah, inner game is so important. And it's, it's interesting, John, because can you imagine as kids, if we would have learned this at an early age, how much better would our society be if we could work on our inner game? And, you'd have less violence. You'd have more harmony in our society, probably better educated people, probably better advancements in life. And it's so well said. You're currently the CEO. Let's even go this route because here we go. You're currently the CEO of MyNeuroGym. And how is your company able to help people? And what are some popular products or programs for your customers you're doing?
So we've been around for about 8 years. And what I realized many, many years ago is if we didn't win the inner game, it was very hard to win the outer game. And so I started to create programs for winning the game of fear, whether it's fear of failure or fear of being embarrassed or ashamed or ridiculed or judged or disappointed. I created programs for winning the game of procrastination, self-sabotage, winning the game of business, winning the game of money. And whenever we're dealing with, winning any of the inner games, there's a belief structure that you need to have, an identity that you need to have. There's emotional control that you need, when you're uncertain or have doubts. And so I created all of these programs, and all of our clients, they Innercise daily, plus they upgrade their knowledge and skills, and then they're put into an environment with other members from around the world to be able to help each other. And so that's kind of like what we do. We've got over 100,000 people Innercising daily right now. And my goal with the new app that's going to come out in about a month and a half will be that we have millions of people Innercising daily, whether they're in kindergarten or the professional athletes or homemakers. It doesn't matter. We're creating Innercises for everybody and building AI into it as well. So it'll be a pocket coach, therapist, mindset expert in the palm of everybody's hand.
Oh, that's fantastic. I meditate a couple times a day, John.
Love it.
And it's my understanding you have a strong meditation practice.
Every day.
What are your rituals?
Well, in the morning, are you talking about my meditation rituals?
Yes.
Yeah. So right when I wake up, first thing that I do is I meditate, and then I Innercise. And then I exercise, and then I do it again. I do my meditation again, usually right before dinner.
Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah. And my morning one's about 15 minutes. My pre-dinner one's about 10 minutes.
Okay. Is there a certain type of meditation you lean into, or?
No, I have a variety of different meditation practices that I do. I practice mindfulness throughout the day, but meditation, I either do exteroception meditations where I'm focusing outwards, eyes open, or I'm doing interoception meditation where I'm scanning my body, focusing on my breath. But I could also be doing meditation where there's zero thought at all. So I usually will see how do I feel, what's showing up, and just go there. The idea with meditation, right, is it's a practice to be able to be aware of the thoughts that I have without judgment, blame, shame, guilt, or justification. It's to be able to be aware of the emotions and the feelings that I have, again, without judgment, blame, shame, guilt, or justification. It's to be able to reflect on what I'm doing or not doing, what I'm moving towards or want to move towards. So it's a time for me to, how we plug our phones in, to get energy. Well,
Yes.
For me, it's like I'm remembering that I am plugged into the universal intelligence, right? And that I'm not separate from it. So for me, it's the reminder that there is no out there and in here. But the common peace I seek is going to be from the common peace I create. The focus I achieve is going to be from the focus I create. The chaos that I am in sometimes is from the chaos I'm creating. So it's the reminder to get back to homeostasis, to home, and to start from that place and to finish the day off from that place.
That's exactly how I live my life. It's great. I love to hear it. It's kind of nice to hear someone else lives that way too. And I agree with you. It helps you balance your emotions, get rid of fear, live in a state of love, and really be able to deeply connect with people. That's what I found through the practice and what you're explaining as well. I believe you're also a vegan. Is that true? How did you, when did you make that decision? How do you manage your diet and nutrition? Because I know I have friends of mine that are vegans, and I don't know how they do it.
Every year, at the end of the year, I ask myself, what am I going to do differently for 100 days? So one year, for example, I decided, let me brush my teeth with my left hand instead of my right hand. That was 4 years ago. I'm still brushing with my left hand because I want to try something different. One year, I think about 10 years ago, I decided to try this thing called vegan because I heard it was really healthy for you. I wasn't doing it for any health reasons. I wasn't doing it because, I have an issue with people eating animal protein. Let me try it for 100 days. And after 100 days, I was telling my wife, I said, I feel really good. I don't feel any of the swelling. I feel really, really good. So I'm going to do another 100 days, honey. So I did 100 days, and we're now, 200 days in. And I was like, holy mackerel, I'm focused, energetic. I feel phenomenal. I'm not missing eating any animal protein. So I did it for the balance of the year. And at the end of the year, I just said, this just resonates with me. I just feel really good. And knowing, I work out probably you do a lot. And so I know that I need the essential amino acids. I know that I need, a high protein. So I got fascinated with how do I get the protein that I need for muscle? How do I get enough of the fats for my brain and for energy? And how do I eat the right complex carbs? And I just got into this groove where it just felt right. And so that's 10 years later. So I've got a really easy, for me, it's super, super easy to get what I need. And I don't miss having meat. What I do miss every once in a while is I used to love Alaskan king crab legs or a good piece of salmon. And I've actually thought about switching over now that I'm in my 60s to a pescatarian diet, so I can get a little bit more of the proteins that come from animal sources. So I'm in the research stage of that, and we'll see sometime later this year.
So, John, the name of the show is I Own It. It's owning every aspect of your life, and why I wanted you on, because you own it. As you know, we are all works in progress, and that's how you live your life. Can you share a recent example where you realized you had it wrong and you didn't own it fully?
I'll share anything with you, and I can't think of anything where I feel that I don't own it,
right,
that I can either manage through it, right, and come out on the other side. So if you ask me, are there things in your life that maybe haven't gone your way or the way you thought you did? I could say yes to that. 2 weeks ago, I had to go in for a heart procedure to fix some atrial fibrillation that I had no control over for 17 years. But still with that, it was manage it for 17 years until it started to become a problem. And then it's like, we'll take care of it. 2 weeks ago, I had this procedure, and 3 days ago, I started working out again. So, back onto the game. My regimens have been so disciplined for so many years. Stuff happens. Of course, stuff happens in my life. I've lost money. One of my companies, we had to close down. I've been unhealthy. I've had colitis. I've had 2 divorces in my life. I've been married to Maria now for 17 years, together for 23. I've made errors in judgment that would spoil most people's days. But they were the things that allowed me to practice what I believe and to overcome the challenges and rise to the occasion. So I don't feel like anything. I mean, I'm don't want to curse myself, but I don't think anything's owned me. There are things that have affected me in a disempowered way at the time. But that was an opportunity for me to rise. I, at one point in my life, back when I was 48, I was drinking a bottle of wine a night, not eating as healthy, and used all the stuff in Innercise to stop drinking alcohol, which I haven't had in 14 years. Used to be a sugar addict, stopped eating refined sugar. So those things owned me temporarily for sure, until I implemented everything that I teach about Innercise and the inner game stuff. And so at this current moment, nothing owns me. I don't own anything, and nothing owns me.
That's great. What's the best way for our audience to follow you and engage with you?
Sure. So obviously johnassaraf.com is one, but on MyNeuroGym.com, we do a lot of free trainings, a lot of content. Or go to YouTube if you want to watch some of the videos that I have. I've got hundreds and hundreds of videos on YouTube. I'm on Instagram, I think, like everybody else.
And so if they go to your website, they can get your free ebook. Is that the case? They can download it? Is that coming out?
No, this new one, I think you're talking about the art and science of neuromarketing.
Yes.
Where do you get that at? This one, let me just see. I think, I don't know if my team gave you a URL for that. But let me find the URL. I know that I saw it somewhere. Give me just one quick second.
Why don't you tell everyone how do we get that book?
Yeah, myneurogym.com/I own it.
All right, look at that. I love it.
myneurogym.com/I own it, and they can get that one for sure.
Feel free to log on to John's website and grab a free copy of that. I'm sure it's fantastic, just like John is. So we're going to wrap up with our 3 questions. I've been waiting for you to come on. Are you ready?
Go.
All right. So in our studio in Laguna Beach, we have a couch. And if you were in studio with me, I'd say, John, get on the couch, lay down, close your eyes, kick your feet up. How old are you now?
I'm 61.
Okay. You're a young 61. So go back to when you're 16. Okay. You have all this experience, knowledge, ups and downs, successful businesses, incredible family man, very intelligent, mind and body expert. Go back to when you're 16. What advice would you share, knowing what you know now, to help yourself at that age?
Believe yourself.
Oh, great. Love that.
Yeah. Believe in yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Believe in yourself. I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of
Yeah.
kids at that age don't. It's such a powerful thing is believing in yourself. It's everything. So, John, it is our last day on earth. God forbid. It's just me and you. It's our last meal together. Your choice, John. What are we eating and what are we drinking?
Last day, last choice. I would probably have a really healthy smoothie, organic greens, maybe some blueberries, and something super, super tasty. And then what are we eating? On that day, I probably would have Alaskan king crab legs and maybe South African lobster.
Oh, that sounds perfect. I love that. So in our studios, we have a grand piano, drum set, and electric guitars and acoustical guitars. If you're in studio with me and you could have a musician or band, any of them, any band or musician, they could be living or deceased, walk through our black door in our studio, who would you have come in and what song would they play us?
Louis Armstrong, What a Wonderful World. No question about that.
All right. Fantastic.
Just for sure.
John Assaraf, thank you so much for joining us today. If you are interested in listening to more episodes like the one we just dropped with John, feel free to drop kick that right hand button and click subscribe. Feel free to click the like button as many times as possible so we can share this wonderful knowledge that John dropped on us. And like I always say, let it go viral. And to follow me, go to benreinberg.com. You can follow me on all social media platforms. And if you want to learn about commercial real estate, I'll be teaching it shortly around the world. Feel free to log on to my company, AllianceCGC.com. We are the leaders in commercial real estate, and we are also medical office experts. Feel free to log on. If you're interested in investing passively in medical office, feel free to click on the Alliance Medical Property Fund. It is the hottest fund in the United States on the market. John Assaraf, thank you so much for joining us. What a pleasure to see you. And thank you so much for sharing everything you did today. Be well.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you for listening to the I Own It podcast with Ben Reinberg. To hear our past episodes and connect with Ben, visit benreinberg.com.